Okay, by way of preamble, this was brought in one of the discussions, weekly discussions with Mayor Lambert, Council President Art Betke, and Council Vice President Jim Bullen. And the discussion had to do with the current state of discussions about the Moscow Multimodal Transportation Plan and the discussion of traffic patterns along 3rd Street through the city. Whatever became of the discussion to look into a bicycle pedestrian bridge on the 3rd Street right-of-way between, or over Paradise Creek, heading toward Mountain View. So at that time, it was requested to put that on the agenda. You may have noticed that the initial agenda that was issued was did not have this on it. Apologize for that. We were able to get it in under the notice statute by amending the agenda late last Friday. So I want to thank Lori's help in getting that done. But suffice it to say that the discussion of a bicycle pedestrian bridge across on 3rd Street right-of-way across Paradise Creek has been milling around among the City Council since about 2005. I have given the Council some minutes from 2005 when the discussion was beginning. At that time, traffic patterns through the city were being discussed. There was a discussion about proceeding with a comprehensive transportation plan, I believe at that time, less if memory serves. We were in the process of discussing whether to get or apply for ITD grant in order to get that done. So one of the things that was discussed was 3rd Street corridor. So at that time, the council talked about it several times and eventually held a workshop, I believe in October of 2005, where they listened to many members of the community talk about the 3rd Street corridor, and a discussion came up regarding a bicycle pedestrian bridge. Since that time, in 2007, Council had a discussion regarding the bridge on December 3rd of 2007 and passed a resolution, Resolution 2007-30, which I've included in your packets and has been brought up before the Council in the past. And in that resolution, essentially, Council resolved that the city endorses the construction of a pedestrian bicycle disabled access bridge on 3rd Street over Paradise Creek. I thought I grew up in Eastern Oregon there for a minute.
Well, that's what they call them in Eastern Oregon, because that's where I grew up, Grace.
We just didn't learn how to spell in Eastern Washington. With adjacent landscaping and accommodating Paradise Path and amenities to the extent possible within the city's right-of-way at the intersection of Creek and 3rd Street. 3rd Street shall remain classified as a collector to conserve the safety and accessibility of schools, and the resolution be in full force and effect immediately upon its passage and approval by the City Council. At that time, Council passed a budget, fiscal year 2007, which contained $10,000. That $10,000 was for several purposes, was to do some investigative, investigation regarding the ability of the soils and the structure of Paradise Creek to support a bicycle pedestrian bridge. And the engineering department was tasked with determining or retaining a consultant for that purpose. Also, there was discussion at that time of a group of students who wanted to design the pedestrian bridge, and I recall the discussion had to do with whether the professors of those students would stamp the plans for the bridge, and of course that's something they're not allowed to do, so there would have had to have been a review and certification process by a licensed civil engineer or structural engineer in order to utilize those plans. So that's what the funds were to be used for. In 2008, no progress had been made at that time, I think because either timeliness or discussions by the council. In 2008, the council added $2,000 based on continuing estimates what it would cost to do that original scope of work, and so $12,000 was added to the FY 2008 budget. That was $12,000, the $10,000 of carryover, plus an additional $2,000. In 2009 was when it became an accumulation in the city's budget. The difference between an accumulation and a line item. The line item is to accomplish a specific task, so it was included in there for a specific purpose. In 2009, it was budgeted as an accumulation in the capital projects budget. At that time, it was budgeted at $14,360. Some of the financial records that would support this we've not delved into. My recollection, having been here for quite a while, is that the certain amount of the $12,000 that the council had originally budgeted in FY 2008 was utilized. I think Strata was the firm that was hired, and there were an additional costs, and the remaining amount of that $12,000 was somewhere around $7,500, $7,800. Council at that time, to the best of my recollection, indicated that they were supportive of the bridge and that they would put those funds in the capital projects fund. And at that time, there was discussion about community members donating funds to assist in the construction of that bridge. So donations were then taken or were accumulated by the city beginning in December of 2005. December of 2005 through about May 30th of December of 2007 through about May 30th of 2008. The donations were about $7,230 that, when added to the balance that the city had already had, came to a budgeted amount of $14,360. The last donation was taken in 2008 in the amount of $500, bringing the balance to $14,860. So $7,230 less a rebate of $75 would have been donated monies. The balance of that $14,860 would be city monies accumulated in that account. So since that time, I've given the council all of the data that we have. I've also included some minutes from the Moscow Transportation Commission, which Les forwarded to me this morning, where it was a discussion as well. There's also excerpts from the Moscow Multimodal Transportation Plan that would be at your disposal as well. In discussing this, you'll see in the descriptor that's in the council packet that the discussion was to have a staff is seeking direction as to what the council desires for us to work with on a bicycle pedestrian bridge. Do you desire us to seek out alternatives and bring those alternatives back to you? At that time, I was instructed by the mayor that this discussion will be limited to the bicycle pedestrian bridge concept and is not a discussion to talk about the multimodal potential of a multimodal bridge or the implications of the multimodal transportation study. So with that, I believe that's about as good a background as I can give you. If you have any questions, I'd certainly answer those.
I'll add a few things, Gary. That the budget amount of a total of $14,860, $7,230 of that was given by individuals, and there were a few folks that were companies or LLCs too, but mostly single individuals, and that happened in 2007 and 2008. And so there's been a lot of information on social media, letters to the editor, common talks amongst people in our community about this money, who donated, where it's at, is it still there, and all those types of things. So that's where this conversation was brought up from, and you're correct on a couple of things. And folks, we're going to discuss pedestrian bicycle bridge. We're not going to speak about a vehicle bridge at this time, but I also want everybody to understand that doesn't mean that down the road there won't be a vehicle bridge, so I want everybody to be very clear on it as we go along and we talk forward. But But the discussion won't be about vehicle bridges tonight, so Jim, I'll turn it over to you.
If I may add one more thing, one of the things that was brought to our attention as well is that there are a number of bicycle pedestrian bridges installed in the city of Pullman, where the Paradise Creek flows through the city of Pullman. And so we have requested the city of Pullman to provide us with some of those designs, and they've just sent those over on Friday, so I forwarded them on to the engineering department. And I'm sure Les hasn't had a chance to review them yet, but we're seeking out some different alternatives.